Yeah, so you've done your research, man. I never had direction. Right now, 90% of my waking life is going into this thing, and this is the one thing.
That screenshot from the warehouse, that was so funny.
Yeah. That guy is dead now. Like, yeah, I'm 10 kg overweight. It's really bad, but look, it is what it is. I'm going to watch a movie here. Like, you can't live like that. You have to win. You have to become the character you want to become. You have to level up. The core opposite of expression is depression. Right now, clients pay 10 grand a month or 8 grand a month. Like, that first €300 a month, that was the best endorphins I've ever had in my life. Like, I never purposely woke up one day and was like, I'm going to start a personal brand. Like, I never understood that, you know. If I did, I'd probably be double as far as where I am now. I don't really care about like fast cash. Like, I don't really care about that type of stuff, you know. I put like my passion and vision above financing. So I don't think I would ever found fulfillment in life if I didn't.
Adam, we made it.
We did
Here
it.
in Dubai, we managed to line it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm excited for it. And the number of people that I was speaking about when I was coming out here to interview people, and your name kept cropping up. So there must be a reason for that, Adam.
I hope so.
I certainly think so. And as I was getting to know you and your content, I was thinking about, I think we need to go back to 20-year-old you, who was a bit directionless, warehouse worker.
Yeah.
Got declined from like what was the role? Parts advisor and a car mechanic.
Yeah.
And
declined from a lot of roles, but that particular one that I posted was literally going to the shelf, finding the product and bringing it to the mechanic. It was like, it was pretty much being unqualified for anything really.
And if people look at you now, there are obviously so many impressive achievements, such a great lifestyle that you live, and they're able to teach on to others how to live this lifestyle as well, which is one of the most impressive things that anyone can do.
Yeah.
How do we start to join the dots between those two very, very different points in life and time?
Very good question. Quite difficult, I suppose. Like, I always knew I was smart. Like, there's always been something that, I suppose for me, as I never had direction. Like you said, I was directionless. I never had direction. So I would always say, when I was in school or something like that, my mother would be always crying and she'd be like, oh, please go to school or just do your homework for once and whatever. So I was like, look, I used to always say, like, just don't worry, something's going to come. Because I knew if I put my mind to anything, sport, a project, anything, whatever, like if I put my mind to it, I can become the best at it. But I just never had anything to put my mind to. So I was like, something is going to come. And I knew something would come. And then when I saw Ty Lopez on an advert one time after getting fired, I was like, this could be the thing. And then I just figured out a way to just like, okay, right now, 90% of my waking life is going into this thing. And this is the one thing. This is the one, like, you know, Eminem says, you only get one shot. Like, this is the thing for me. It was burn the boats. It was everything. And I just locked in and never looked back.
Yeah, it's funny how sometimes you come across something and it just speaks to you on a level that's different to anything else you've done before. And so many guests across the last 200 odd episodes have not found fulfillment within the schooling system.
Yeah.
And if you looked at their academic record, and I'm sure you've joked before about some of the qualifications you left with, you'd be like, oh, like, what's this guy doing? Like, how is he not this? Because if you have a conversation with him or you maybe tested him in some other form or some other domain, you're like highly capable and like got so much more to you than the bit of paper that you were hoping to achieve at the end of school. But sometimes like that discouraging you throughout your early years leads people to put themselves in a box where they don't deem themselves to be capable of doing something different. Yeah,
absolutely. And like, you know, you can't line up hundreds of different people and judge them all on the exact same thing. Everyone's got different talents, like we're, you know, creatures of habit. We're creatures of learning different ways, different things, we all have different perspectives, we all have different upbringings. So when you come in and judge somebody on their ability to learn, have the attention span to learn stuff that they've very little interest in, and then on to be able to manage a level of focus to dump it on a piece of paper at one time, then it's not a good way to judge somebody's level of capabilities of anything.
It's
and
absolutely
that's why I think school is I hate the education system.
The system, it's still in that archaic mode of like training people to like work 9 to 5 in a factory or whatever domain they want to put people within. And don't get me wrong, like there's particular subjects that like spoke to me and excited me and made me want to engage and read more. But I also went to university and did a politics degree, and I think now at like 31, I would actually get so much more from the books that they were proposing that I read at the time, because it felt forced, and you were just like, that's just what you have to do. You did well in school. You have to go to this university. You have to study this course because then you get the graduate job. And you're like, oh, I'm on this like railroaded path that I don't feel like I have any agency over. And I think for a lot of us guys like yourself, that you're into your training, you're into your personal responsibility, you kind of feel like, oh, I've never had this area of like fulfillment from this particular system. And I love that it took you to come across something online to like flip that switch, and the Adam that people get to speak to now and see now was starting to get created, rather than the kind of that screenshot from the warehouse. That was so funny.
Like that's an old me, man. Like, it's hard to like that guy is dead now. Like, he's an old guy, but yeah, that was me for years, man. And you know, just having no direction. And like the sad thing, that what I've realized, and when I speak with a lot of people and I notice, is if you have potential that's not being fulfilled, that becomes destructive. So like, for example, if you have potential that it's not being able to be, you know, given into something, you will start to deconstruct your life. You will start having arguments. You'll start getting into some form of trouble, and that's why crime is there. That's why people are in trouble, because they have potential that they have nothing to put it into. So unfulfilled potential is a huge problem. And if you're not able to express what you have, and it's bottled up, the core opposite of expression is depression. So like, you're literally in
people
a
are
sad
acting
state.
out because they're so like disillusioned with what's going on. I really see that, and one of the phrases that's come up on the podcast a lot is, true hell is when the you that you could have been meets the you that you are. And if there's a delta and a difference between that because of the effort and the application that you've had, you would fall into depression, despair, because you're like, oh my goodness, this is the Adam or the Colin that I could have been if I'd applied myself in these areas that I knew I could do. But instead I wasted my time. And nowadays modern men are really fighting so much distraction. TikTok, absolutely. Vaping, porn, recreational drugs, partying, the list goes on and on and on. And I know you're a big Huberman fan. All this cheap unearned dopamine and reward that we've got, it's so easy to fall off from a path. And rather than you watching Ty Lopez, you could have been scrolling, not at this period in time based on when it was, but maybe it would be Vine back then or something, or whatever it was, and just wasting time.
Just numb.
Exactly.
Just numb, man.
What was it about Ty Lopez that grabbed your attention? Because people have different opinions on him, don't they? Because his adverts are everywhere. If you engage with one thing, he follows you around the internet, and he's good at it. So what you said there a second ago is, school is being forced down your throat. School's like, you have to go this, you have to get the degree, you have to do this. And so Ty done the exact opposite of that. Ty was like, look, I have all these amazing cars. I have this amazing Beverly Hills mansion. I fly private jets. I have, I'm financially free. He's with all these beautiful women. He's this amazing lifestyle. He was like, okay, I have this. I got this from reading the books. So he, rather than being shoved, he shows you how you can create a desire to want it. He completely flips the education on its head. So I was like, okay, straight away, I want to become someone like Ty Lopez. For me to do that, I read and study what he has read and studied, and then that puts me into a place of the goal is pulling me, rather than me pushing myself towards the goal. So it's completely switching on its head. And then all of a sudden I had a vision, I had a target. I knew, like, okay, Ty Lopez, he's here. He started out when he was here, and he's now teaching me how to move in this direction. And like, Ty is 44, I'm 27, I got a couple of years, but when I'm Ty's age, I want to be, someone pushing towards that direction. And you can see the path. Changing of the language is huge. So one of the things that one of my friends and recent guest in the show, Richard Dixon, talks about is changing from I have to I get to. And it sounds like so trivial, and sometimes people are like, oh, podcast bros, like making things sound so simple. But if you actively change that in your day all the time, I get to go to the gym, I get to prepare my meals, I get to go a walk, I get to get up early, I get to get sunlight, I get to whatever it is. You quite quickly reframe how you are as a person, and like even like what's going on inside your head, the neuroplasticity is different based on the language you use. One of the ladies I interviewed in this year, and Americans are really interesting for this because they have typically much more positive self-talk than we do as UK or in Ireland.
Yeah.
And Lauren Johnson, she was the performance coordinator for mental performance at the Yankees. So obviously surrounded by these elite performers. And so much of the time they were like reframing words that they would maybe think negatively about, like nerves to excitement.
Yeah.
And you just completely change that language. And guess what? You start to be like, I'm feeling like butterflies in my stomach. Okay, that's you preparing the body for what you get to do. So in the same way, you were like, okay, I have to read these books for school. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Tai Lopez is saying, read these books and you will move towards this direction. It will create this potential opportunities for you. And you're like, I can see myself doing that.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a huge, actually, like energetically, school doesn't even work, because you can't survive off willpower. Like you're using all your willpower to force yourself to study, and willpower is like a daily iPhone battery. Like it doesn't last. So if you're trying to study at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, after a long day of dealing with fucking traffic and teachers and people in school and trying to live your normal life, by the time that comes, your battery might only be on, your willpower battery might only be on 20% remaining, and you're trying to cram all this information into your mind. Whereas when you're not surviving off willpower, you're surviving off desire. Desire is an ever feeding emotion. Like you create energy when you have desire. So desire is like something that will constantly push, not have to push you, that it will just happen, without any effort, like it's flow. When you're flowing into something, you don't need to be like, I have to do this. You can just go in that direction, and that's such an important thing.
That's why people sometimes can't understand why maybe somebody like you or our mutual friend Darren Lee or myself are just building so relentlessly.
Yeah.
Because they're like, that looks like a lot of work.
Yeah.
But work doesn't always feel like work when you're driven by what you're talking about there in terms of desire.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting that you're able to rationalize that now. But if we were to go back to younger Adam, what was going on inside your head when you discovered this Tai Lopez guy and you were like I've got a desire to read these books? Like, what was pushing you then?
Yeah, so like Tai Lopez was like the snowball effect for me, because when I was just writing to YouTube every night, I simply replaced my Netflix and watching stupid TV shows with Tai Lopez. But then my YouTube algorithm was feeding me like-minded videos. So I had the Gary V's and Grant Cardone's, and then I discovered Bob Proctor. And then Bob Proctor was someone who like literally took my brain out of my head, completely 360'd it and put it back in. I see the world totally different from dealing with Bob Proctor. So I was just on this rampage of like just finding all information. So I just became obsessed. with that type of stuff.
It's just all good stuff as well, isn't it? Like it's so easy to fall down the wrong algorithm rabbit holes.
Yeah.
But when you start feeding yourselves the good stuff, it's amazing. And we had a kind of special roundtable episode in the podcast called "Stand on the Shoulders of Giants."
Yeah.
And myself and two friends took all these different concepts that we have access to for free through YouTube or through books or through whatever platform.
Yeah.
And it's like Jordan Peterson, it's Grant Cardone, it's whoever it is.
Yeah.
And you're like, do you know how lucky we are in this day and age to have access to this level of information for free? When in the past you would have had to have you would have to go on a pilgrimage basically to get access to this level of wisdom. And of course we had the written, the print press, but media nowadays is so much more easily distributed that we get to tap into this stuff. Yeah. And it's all a choice. Because you could have spent that time, like you say, Netflix and whatever else. And I don't want to demonize Netflix, but genuinely, if you swapped those hours and hours and hours that people consume, you can radically change your skill set very quickly. Yeah,
absolutely. If you have a problem in your life, don't just, that's what I think, like people just accept the problem, like just to learn to live with the problem. Whereas if you have a problem in regards to you're overweight and you want to, lose 10 kg, you want to have better cardiovascular health, whatever the case may be. Instead of sitting down watching, Game of Thrones or Suits or whatever is on the TV, like go right into YouTube and spend that 2 hours at night time doing that and then implementing what you learn. And in 3 to 6 months time, you could have lost 10 kg and you could feel 100 times better. And that will snowball effect into your life. So never just accept and live with the problem. People are just accepting and living with the problem, and then they're like, yeah, I'm 10 kg overweight. It's really bad. But look, it is what it is. I'm going to watch a movie here. Like, you can't live like that. You have only one life, and you know it's life is a game. You have to win. You have to become the character you want to become. You have to level up, or else you're going to be sad, and else you are going to come to the end of it and say, "This is who I am. This is who I could have been," and then you're going to go into
that's that true hell we just spoke about. Yeah. Given you didn't connect with academia, what was your process for learning during this period? Tai Lopez's videos, but like, what kind of education were you getting?
So I just done everything. Like, I just done everything. Like, to be honest, I have, well, maybe a little bit now. I watch, you know, the odd movie now and then when I'm, you know, if I'm with someone or whatever. But like, I still do that. Like, if I'm going for a walk, I will just automatically put something on my headphones, or I will have something on in the car. I'll just be consuming all the time. It's because I'm obsessed. I don't particularly look for, like, I'm not particularly looking for a piece of information. I just actually enjoy listening to it, because even though I don't know, like, you don't know what you don't know. So I'm just constantly learning, and then I'm like, it all will benefit my life in some form of different way. And now I'm very kind of like spiritual, I suppose. So I can kind of like, I just constantly look to develop.
Well, I know you have a faith as well, don't you? So it links to that too, I guess. Yeah.
So it all links, and it's just that's my entertainment, man. That's my Game of Thrones, man. That's my thing, you know.
I think it's so important to switch off, and I think I see a lot of like traits that are similar to many, I guess, and similar to myself, where like we are very type A, and like dialing into things like, oh, I'm going to listen to this podcast, or I'm going to watch this podcast, rather than putting on something that feels mindless. It gives us a positive feedback loop. And if you're constantly in, like, the phrase I'm thinking of is like almost like marinating your brain in like all these great conversations and great minds,
I like that,
you give yourself a really good opportunity to soak in more of it, and then it comes to your mouth. Like, see some of the concepts you're talking about in terms of Bob Proctor and desire. That's through hours and hours of, like, and if you did biology in school, osmosis, which is just the transfer between the two, and you're like, this is great. Like, I'm so fortunate that we get this, and like, I as a host now get these amazing opportunities to speak to people, and I can recall lessons like Warren Johnson switching nervous to excited or whatever else, and it's just a constant learning process that we get to share with people who tune in on Spotify or YouTube. It's mad.
Love that. Tai Lopez actually calls it edutainment. So brilliant. He, like, obviously switching your entertainment for edutainment, educational entertainment. So like, it doesn't have to be like a seminar or, you know, some live training.
It's not
that's
like a
intense.
lecture,
Yeah, it can be like a vlog. Like, it can be a vlog of someone who you look up to. Like, it can be someone who has a YouTube channel, or that's successful in business or fitness or lifestyle, whatever you want to achieve, or whatever you want to move towards. You can just consume their content. Like, consume how, like, I'm not even consuming, like, I'm trying to learn something. I'm trying to be like, you know, what's the tiny things that they're doing, you know, like, what time do they get up? What I'm trying to construct, what do they do for the first hour of the day? What's their plan? Like, what's
the access we have to that is wild though. Like, you could maybe read like Marcus Aurelius's Stoic Diary and see like, this is what his daily routine looked like. But nowadays we have guys uploading on their Instagram story their full day, and you're like, oh well, if it works for this guy, I can just take my version of it. And I always rail against becoming like the Aldi or the Costco or the kind of B-Tech version of somebody else. But you can absolutely learn from these people and be like, okay, I'm going to dive into this. But in terms of like your education through Tai Lopez, you did some of his courses as well. What were those like?
So yeah, I done Tai Lopez's course. When I got fired on a Friday, I came home and I wrote into YouTube like, what the fuck am I going to do? Like, how to? So basically, I tried every job. So I was trying every job. I tried to become an electrician, a carpenter, a labourer. Like, I done everything, every factory, forklift, everything you can think of, right? And I failed them all. So I came home and I was like, how to start my own job. I was like, how to create my own job, and then who pops up? Tai Lopez. So I clicked in through, and I didn't know I was being sold at the time, but he brought me through a webinar, a funnel. At the time, I had no idea that was happening. I thought, I was like, oh my God, it's this live webinar that's about to come off with Tai Lopez. And he brought me through like how this all works. And I just remember just watching it, and I was like, this could work. And in the back of my mind, I was like, I'm saying to my mother for 20 years, something's going to come, you know, because my mother will say like, but my mother very, very intelligently phrased things to me to say like, you know, if you don't do something like, Adam, you know, you're 20 now. What about when you're 35? Do you not want to take your family on a nice holiday? Do you want to live in a nice area? And I was like, yes, I want all of that, but this is not the pathway to get there. The education system is not going to get me there.
It wasn't connecting with you either. For some people, they might go through it and end up in whatever they're ending up in, but very few would have ended up where you are now, going through the education system.
No, it's impossible.
It's just not how it's designed.
It couldn't be possible. You don't learn how to start businesses or network or anything like that in school. Unfortunately, I wish you did. My life would have been a lot easier. But yeah, so that bells were going off in my mind to say, is that the one thing that I've been telling people for years that is going to come? You know, because like, you know, I just gave my family a tough time, but it was never out of badness.
They want the best for you, don't they? And I notice it even now. Parents are conservative with a small c.
Yeah.
They like to see you do things that are concrete and tangible. And even now, I guess sometimes you maybe have to explain to mum what it is that you're doing, because it's not clear. And like, I remember starting the podcast and my dad being like, "Oh, how does that work with like GDPR?" As in like data protection information. I was like, Dad, don't worry about it. Absolutely, man. Because it's just so foreign to them. Like, they don't consume podcasts, they don't listen to them. They probably don't understand the elements of an agency because it's foreign to their generation. Whereas if you were a banker, an accountant, a dentist, an engineer, a car mechanic, a hairdresser, like it's like, oh, that's always been around and it always will be. This is how it works. Whereas when you do this kind of internet thing, they're like, it's not tangible. It's not tangible. And it doesn't feel safe until you have proof of concept. So in terms of you getting started, what was the process like for that?
So I just bought a course, and like I said, I got fired on a Friday, so like a Tuesday, I literally got paid. I think I was getting, my salary was like €2,000 a month. So I literally got that, and I just like, I was just like terrified. I remember being like, this is a huge thing. And I was like, this is going to be a lifelong embarrassment if it doesn't work, which that was one of the driving forces for me to work hard. So he just brought me through, and I was like, this could work. This could be a thing. And I just paid the money, man. Actually, no, I motivated myself. It took me like a week to like motivate myself.
Psyched up for it.
Yeah. And then one time I was sitting outside the gym, and I was on the website, and I was like, I'm going to do it. And I done it, and I got emailed the access and everything. And I just went home and got to work. I just went over and bought a couple of notepads and pens and went up. You know, I actually went to one of my friends. I remember he had a desk in his room. I rang and I was like, you have a desk in your room? And I was like, this is like a plank of wood on top of two things. Like it wasn't even connected properly. And I was like, are you using it? And he was like, no. And I was like, can I have it? And he was like, yeah. And I just drove up, grabbed the desk, came home, pen, notepad. My laptop literally, it took like 20 minutes to come on. It sounded like a hairdryer. And it was so bad.
Boeing 747 taking off.
Yeah. And I just kicked off from there, man. I just opened it up, and you know, I just.
Where did the first clients come from? And I guess for the listeners, this was a marketing agency in effect, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that's how you describe
it. He owns the copyright for SMMA, which is like social media marketing agency, and essentially, so basically, doing everything in regards to the digital world for local communities. Okay, so basically he was teaching people how to, the main thing back then was like Facebook ads were really kind of like really kicking off. Google ads were around, but they weren't like, there was no one really doing it really efficiently. Mostly web developers and web agencies were just having an add-on of Google back in this like 2017. So yeah, just basically kicked off from there, started, and the first client came from, so I wasn't even trying to get my first client. Really, for the first 6 months, I was just trying to reprogram my brain because I was going down the wrong route for so many years, and I kind of semi understood I have to become a different person, because I was scared to even tell my parents. I was scared to tell anybody that I wanted to start a business, because this was the same person that like got the lowest grades in the whole entire high school. We call it Leaving Cert in Ireland. Like, there's 180 people in that graduation year. My grades were the bottom, like the lowest. So for me to tell people I'm going to start a business was like this, like checked into a mental hospital type of thing. So I had to spend kind of 6 months just actually learning how to become I suppose, someone who is capable of that. So I was like learning how to dress better. I was learning like how to have good posture, all the small things that you're not really taught.
How you carry yourself is huge. And
yeah,
if you in any business, new sales is vital. You can't survive without it. And if you don't believe in yourself as a man and a person, there's very little chance you're going to sell your company and your concept and your product either. So I find that really interesting that it was like a building phase of before I can go out to the world, I do need to like prove to myself that I'm going to be able to do this.
And I had to prove to people in my local area, I had to prove to people, because back then e-commerce came for me about 2 or 3 years later. Whereas at the beginning, I only had like my widest dreams at the time were getting that same 2K a month salary, but like 5 local businesses paying me 400 quid a month or something like that. So for me to like even have any local business even to reply to me, I had to change a lot. So essentially what I did was I just spent that 6 months just becoming a different person, dressing better, like different, as I said, posture, reading books, and essentially just actually changing who I was. And then one day I remember I heard my sister say to my mother, being like, Adam's very different, like Adam's different, or he's dressing different, or something's going on here. And I was like, okay, I must be starting to work, because previously, like, no electrician company didn't want to hire me, a factory didn't want to hire me, the warehouse worker didn't renew my contract after the 6 month thing. Like, no company wanted to employ me. I was unemployable. So for me to actually have people directly come to me and pay me direct, it was like a huge, terrifying thing for me. So 6 months went by of me just learning how to change and how to become a different person. And then once I finished Tai Lopez's, it's a 4-month course. I'd done it twice in 4 months. So basically I'd kind of done it like I was non-stop. Then I started kind of like saying to my friends and stuff, they were, because all my friends were like, what are you up to? Are you reading I heard you're reading books, like what the hell's going on? Because I was just
it'd be out of character.
Yeah. So I was just not a person to read books. Like my first time ordering 3 books from Amazon, I grabbed them from the postman, from the delivery, and I hid them under my pillow or whatever. Because I remember like my mother would be like, what's going on here? Why is Adam reading these books? So it was just so out of character for me. You know, it was so far from. You
said the phrase "burn the boats" at the start. You were burning the boats with the old version of you as well, like detaching from it. Yeah, Adam didn't read. Adam couldn't hold down a job. Adam didn't dress smartly. Didn't hold himself properly. No. I'm not that guy anymore. No, you're on your villain arc. Yeah. So I had to completely kill the old person me. Like I had like a 2 or 3 year process, or maybe 1 or 2 year process of actually killing the old person of myself. And then when did the first client come then?
So yeah, I started saying to all my friends when they were asking with the books, I was like, look, I'm starting to do this internet marketing thing. I was like, I'm starting to do this online thing. And I was like, here's the deal. You say to your employer that like we can bring them more customers in the door without with the internet. I can get more customers in the door, and if they sign up as a client, I'll give you 50% of the first month. So I sent it to all my friends. I sent it to my father. One of my friends, Craig said to his boss, which was a barber, back where my mother lives back home. And she was like, yeah, that sounds great. Tell him come down. I think she said she followed like US companies that were doing something similar, or UK companies that were doing something similar. So she's like, oh, if we can do that in Ireland, it would be great. So Craig rang me one day and he was like, yeah, she said come down. I was like, what? So I just freaked. I was terrified then. So I went down and met her and I told her all about this, and I had like this stack of stuff printed off, and she was like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, yeah. She was like, how much? And I wanted to say 100 euros a week, but I was too scared. So I said 90 euros a week. And she was like, yeah, perfect, let's do it. And that was my first client.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And that referral network was something that you started to build out, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I made all my friends in my network my sales team. I made my dad my sales team. So my dad then, his local bar back home was my second client. So he connected me with the owner. He was like, go speak with him. He sounds interested in another person. And so then effectively my dad said it to a financial advisor. He does like insurance, he does like mortgages and stuff like that. He was like, you know what, tell him come down to me, and he'll have a chat. So he kind of was a more like I've always wanted to mentor someone. He was more interested in being like my mentor, and I was like, yeah, let's do that. And I was like, I'd love that. So he connected me with a recruitment agency, and they were my first like 4-figure. I think they were like 1.4K a month. So I thought I made it when I was making that. So he connected me with an optician and a recruitment company, and both of them came on along with the others. And essentially, after about 9 months from purchasing the Tai Lopez course to then, I replaced my salary of 2K or 2.2K with my own clients, and I that was my wildest dream.
And you were working for yourself in
Yeah.
something that you liked doing.
Yeah.
That didn't feel as much like work as when you were in the warehouse or wherever else.
No. I would like sometimes fall asleep on the laptop. So eventually after that, I saved up enough money to buy a proper laptop. So I would fall asleep on the laptop, and sometimes I would just wake up, get a coffee, go to the gym, come back and open up the laptop again, and I would love it. I was loving it. I loved all that
Flow state you talked
yeah,
about, didn't you?
completely flow state, yeah. Looking up stuff on YouTube, looking up looking up how to do new things and bigger and better things for the clients that I had. And yeah, it was amazing.
I've seen that screenshot of that first invoice that you got.
Yeah.
What was that feeling like?
That was fantastic. That was amazing. That, like right now clients pay 10 grand a month or 8 grand a month. Like that first €300 a month, that was the best endorphins I've ever had in my life. Like for me, because I heard someone say, if you can do something once, do it 10 times. If you can do something 10 times, do that 10 times. And then, you eventually will get to $1 million or success.
It's proof of concept, isn't it?
Yeah, proof of concept. So when I got that, I was like, this is working. Like, because I was like 6 months of hard work went in with no pay or no even guarantee previous to that. So I was like, okay, this is working. I risked everything. I risked embarrassment. I risked, fear of failure, because as you know from Glasgow, it's probably similar. Like if that didn't work, and I went back to different employments, I went back to friends, they'd be like, oh, how's the business or the businessman? Or, it would have been so embarrassing.
Yeah, the ribbing you get so big because you pursuing something different casts a light on them maybe playing it safe and not doing it.
Maybe something.
And then we're speaking, you've done events with Rob Lipsett, who's been on the show, and he joked like, oh, what's Billy Biceps doing, posting about protein or something like that. And he just, like, at that time, he said he found it really hard because people were actively wanting him to fail so that they could say, I told you so. Or this YouTube thing's no good. What are you doing that? That's for the Americans, or that's not for people like us. And it's such a limiting belief that no wonder the UK and Ireland are falling behind, and we're out here in Dubai having this conversation, and you're surrounded by people who are willing to push themselves. And I'm very lucky. A lot of the time through the podcast, I've made amazing connections in the UK, and I see like a really positive, or I see the most positive side of it. But I know beneath the surface, there's a hell of a lot of people that don't listen to podcasts like this one that are just desperate for people to fail. Like people who maybe listen to a podcast and maybe share a Spotify rap to my show being up there and whatever else. People are like, what are you listening to a self-development podcast for? Like, what are you caring about that for? You should be listening to, I don't know, Shag, Marry, Avoid or some other trash. Like, and don't get me wrong, people have their entertainment, but it's wild how people get uncomfortable when somebody decides to be like, I'm going to strive for something better. Don't do that. You're making me feel inadequate.
Yeah, well, that's true. And you have to shed, like, I don't talk to any of my childhood best friends anymore, like, which is sad, I might see them at Christmas once a year, whatever. But when they don't want to do something and I want to do something, it's a natural, the gap widens in regards to interest levels, in regards to what you want to do. Like, I get more enjoyment going for a cappuccino than I do for a fucking wild night out. Like, I don't care about that stuff really. So it's your interest levels widen, and then you will have to shed people, but you also got to make room for new people to come on board. And you, in the middle of all that, you will have like this super lonely phase, which I did. I think it was 2018. I had a lonely phase, but it was fine. Like, it was all good. But like, I remember my dad used to be saying, like, well, it's like, what are you doing? It's Saturday night. You don't, like, where's all your friends? Like, where's all my childhood friends that would just walk into my house without ringing? They would just come in, or like, where's... You
were like family with them at that stage?
Yeah. Like, I would walk into their house. I'd go on holidays with, like, best friends for years. And my dad's, it was a weird time, but you have to go through that.
They're waiting to see the proof, aren't they?
Yeah, they're waiting to see the proof. But again, that gap opens up the new people. And like I said, Rob Lips was a huge inspiration of mine. Like I talk to Rob every day now. He's one of my best friends. But like back then, if you actually go onto Instagram and scroll back to 2018, I'm texting Rob to say like, Rob, I'm coming to Dublin. When you like, I'm taking you for a coffee. When are you free? When are you free?
Can we train or can I pick your brain? Yeah, exactly.
Anything.
You're just looking to connect
anything.
because he's somebody that you know can help raise you up.
Yeah,
and not push you down because he believes it can be done because he knows how difficult it is to do it.
Yeah. So it was a huge thing because in Ireland, I didn't really have much people to look up to then. You know, I didn't really have much people to. That's why I credit Discord. That's why I have the institute now. That my goal with that is for that in Ireland specifically, so people have that because I know for a fact, like. When you're in school or when you're in college or whatever you're doing, when you're bored and you're getting in trouble, it's because you lack interest. It's not because you're a bad person. You just lack interest. I just don't give a fuck about algebra or whatever theories there is or whatever bullshit. I don't want to learn French. All right, I don't care about that. History class, it's probably all fake anyway. I don't care about all that. So I'm looking. I lack interest, and when boredom is the biggest problem for so many people. And I would get in trouble when I was bored. I would, throw something at the whiteboard. I would miss a class. I would,
You were acting out.
Just acting out, man, because of bored and lack interest. So if you find interest, you can put your time, effort, and energy into that, and then you can create something, and that's it. Like that's the problem with the education system. We're not interested in that stuff.
What I found interesting, and I wonder if this would still be the case in 2023, is that you built out this agency without any real personal brand online.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays, one of the interviews I've done when out in Dubai is with Daniel Priestley, who wrote Key Person of Influence.
Yeah, I know him, yeah.
And absolutely love that concept in that book. And I think that the number of opportunities that have come my way through Instagram, LinkedIn, the podcast, you're like, okay, this is really interesting.
Yeah.
But your agency was scaling without you really being public facing in terms of talking about it.
I didn't even know what a personal brand was until about 2 years ago. I'd heard the word a couple times and I was like, what even is that? I never knew that was even a thing. And then it was only probably last year when I knew it was an important thing. Like I never grasped it. Like I never knew.
Well, now you're doing pods, your Instagram's growing, you're creating really fresh looking content.
Yeah. But I never purposely woke up one day and was like, I'm going to start a personal brand. Like I never understood that, If I did, I'd probably be double as far as where I am now.
Do you think so? As much of a difference as that?
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, like it's definitely a hugely important thing right now. I think anyone you need to do it, not even to become some form of global Iman Gadzhi type figure, but to like just become credible. Like I get DMs every day, people trying to do something, and I always tell the story of one guy. He's like, Adam, I'm learning how to do Google ads and Facebook ads, and I'm sending out 100 emails a day for 4 months and not get one reply. And I clicked on his page and it was like, book your next barber appointment by clicking the link in my bio. And I was like, you're a barber. I'm like, a company's not going to give you their marketing budget for a trial period if you're a barber. Like, be credible, be consistent, be ethical. Like, do those things and then the clients will come.
That's huge, isn't it? When you click through onto the profile, and if you've cold DM'd me, of course I'm going to be like, who is this guy? What does he stand for?
Yeah.
What's his social proof? What other clients do you work with like me?
Yeah. You're going to want to know that straight away.
Yeah, of course you are. Yeah, that makes so much sense. Yeah. But it's interesting that you were growing through referrals, and because it was local, you were maybe getting to go and see them, make an impression, and it removed some of the need, particularly in like 2017, 2018, where you would have had to like have a really polished LinkedIn or a polished Twitter or a polished Instagram for them to go on and check your work. You were maybe building that connection in person as well. Yeah,
it was all in person. Like, pre-COVID, it was actually very hard to even do Zoom calls. Clients kind of expected you to come down and see them or whatever. So yeah, everything was local. I was like, try meet the people. Like, as I said, that first 4-figure client, which was the recruitment company, they were about an hour from where I lived in Cork, and I used to go there once a week. I would just come to the office with like 2 or 3 coffees and say, hey guys, coming down for a little bit, just want to go through some things. And the previous night I would like think, okay, what's 5 ways I can help their business? And I propose them to that week. And then we'd be like, yeah, 2 of them are bad ideas, but 3 are good. Like, let's try those 3. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So I would go down there, and it would be a very, very personal relationship.
Yeah, it's great, and like the landscape has changed since then in terms of how people deal. Like you say, C19 led people to more Teams, more Zoom, more comfortable with remote relationships.
Yeah.
But particularly in a smaller community where maybe you were actually introducing a new concept in terms of using this internet thing to grow my business. That's fascinating. What were some of the big results that were happening during that period for your clients that allowed you to maybe scale beyond that?
Yeah, so that barbershop, they went from like, you know, they were just saying like, oh, this is great, but a lot of it was organic. But I remember they went from like 4 to 7 staff, and like they moved to the other side of the area with a double-sized unit, and we were like, okay, we were like documenting that, posting adverts in the local area. The recruitment agency, so like recruitment companies, if you get them a company into a corporate, their commission might be like 20k. So we were sending them like, you know, 20 leads a week, and they might say, we're after putting placements on 2 of these. Now in my head, then I'm like, 20 and 20 is 40. That's 40 grand. And they're like, I'm like, did I just make you 40 grand? They're like, yeah. And I was like, whoa. So I was kind of picking up these level of confidence. And like all the case studies, like they were just like, you know, I think I got like, for the optician clinic, we got like 250,000 views in a video locally, and they're like, our inquiries were booked out from that. So it was all these
because you understood how to target as well. Like the views weren't just vanity metrics, they were actually potential customers, which is again because you'd been through Ty's training and could walk the walk. It was like, right, I'm going to deliver this for you. Because a lot of people, when they like, oh, we're going to bring in a marketing agency to increase our following, and you're like, okay, what followers? Yeah,
exactly. So I just knew, I think very analytically. So I'm very much like, spend €1 and make €4, and they'll be happy forever. So I was like, okay, something can go wrong. So something can, you know, they might not like who I am. They might not, you know, and all intangible stuff might not align. But if I can make them money, then they'll always be there, because it's business. I very analytically understood that. So I would say, okay, if I get 250,000 views from people who are in all a 20-mile radius of the spot, and it's in their age demographic, it's in their thing, so they get customers coming in inquiring for their next appointment, then okay, that's going to be like a huge amount of profit for them if they become lifetime value customers. So I very much had the maths. I had the maths quite down to a T, and that's how it worked quite well.
Revenue and profit are everything for a business, and if you as an agency are delivering that, you become such a valuable asset, and you become like a partner within the business, not just like another expense on their marketing budget. They're like, oh no, Adam and Powered or whatever you were trading as then. These guys are really important for us. Like they're like part of our unit, which is class. I know you've been heavily influenced by Gary Keller's One Thing, and you were speaking about how important this might be the one thing that I've been talking about for 20 years. It's going to move me in the right direction. What made you decide to expand upon what you were offering then beyond just the agency?
It all kind of just naturally evolved, really. Obviously, with C19, then, you know, all my local, so I lost like 40% of business overnight because everyone closed.
All the lockdowns,
Yeah, but then I went into the e-commerce. So we were just doing like, kind of like, again, it's the same Facebook, Instagram advertising for e-commerce companies. And then, you know, I think we were working with like a bunch of cosmetic companies, a bunch of like, you know, all different range of companies.
And that was going mad during that time, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I was really, really taken off. And then I suppose in my head, then I was like, okay, we're doing all these numbers on, say, across social media platforms. Google is another thing. So a guy introduced me to a Google guy back home who actually worked in Google on the advertising team, but he wanted to do his own thing. So we connected. I was like, okay, do you want to come work with me? He was like, yeah. I was like, let's do it. So I basically went around to all my e-commerce clients. I was like, look, we're making you hundreds of thousands in monthly sales. We think we can add more revenue on Google. I was like, for the first one, I don't like, let's do it super cheap. Let's like €600 or whatever. Done it, smashed it. Another revenue stream for the brand on Google. And then it just Google became such a big part of that then as well. Next was TikTok, Snapchat, and then email marketing became another thing.
I saw you mentioned recently people are sleeping on Snapchat just now because it's kind of woken up again as a platform. What's happening there?
Snapchat's a huge thing. It's the interface in regards to the building out the campaigns are the exact same as Meta, as Facebook. So, but it's a lot cheaper. So it's just cheaper traffic, and you can target very similarly. You can optimize very similarly. So it's just a very, very good platform. But again, if the brand is proven concept on the Facebook and Instagram, then Snapchat will work. So it's like an add-on, you know, it's like an add-on. So eventually, then it just all evolved into becoming like a one-stop shop for e-commerce growth. And now we position ourselves as like your fractional marketing team or your orchestrated revenue partner, where we just basically do everything.
I love the terminology. Yeah.
So,
it's that integration piece that I was talking about, where like they don't look at you as like another marketing expense. They're like, that's like that's like a part. That's our almost a department for us.
That's our team. Yeah, that's our team. Yeah, like we're available as your team. Like, you know,
it makes you much more sticky.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a spend for them as well, and you're much more integrated, and it's be much harder for somebody to maybe cold prospect them and be like, look, we want to bring you across. We can increase your return on investment by X, and they're like, oh no, like we get a really good service from this because nowadays in this space people are constantly trying to acquire new, aren't they?
Yeah. Like that's a daily thing, daily occurrence. But that's what any industry though. Any industry is going to be the same, you know.
Yeah, that's
a lot of people are pivoting towards AI now, so less competition for me.
Yeah, people get shiny object syndrome, don't they? Because you were mentioning that it naturally came that you would expand to working with e-commerce driven by the lockdown period.
Yeah.
But you have largely kept within this domain of expertise. And as you said, you kind of just slowly added strings to the bow. Google, Snapchat, TikTok.
Yeah.
And you didn't pivot towards, I'm an AI, Web3 crypto guru now. Like it was always like, let's stay the course in an area where I've got real expertise. And it's interesting when you develop a skill set in one area, you're quite often able to apply it in another that has slightly similar domains, but not completely different, because it's so easy to get distracted by whatever comes up next.
Yeah, absolutely. And there has been carrots dangling in front of me endless amounts of times.
Temptation.
Yeah. Like I could have made millions through drop shipping, in my opinion. Like, you know, a lot of people have come to me, Adam, 50% of the store is yours. We're going to do it together. This is going to happen, blah, blah, blah. And that store has went on to make millions, you know. But for me, it was just like, it takes off my long-term thing. And I would rather grow by 2 to 5% month on month, year on year, rather than have a huge spike in sales and then have to go into a different industry 6 months or 12 months down the line. So
you'd rather have sustainable longevity than boom and bust and then pivoting?
Yeah.
Do you think that's a personality type thing?
I think it's just more of a deep thinking and deep planning thing, because I don't really care. Like, I don't really care about like fast cash. Like, I don't really care about that type of stuff. You know, I don't really like that stuff. You know, it's not really my. You know, like it doesn't excite me that much, you know.
You've got good self-awareness. What have you done to work on that?
I'm just the most deep thinker of all time, man. Like, people say to me, like, you know, like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, why? And they're like, you haven't spoken in the last 5 minutes. And I'm like, I was just thinking. And they're like, what the fuck? I'm just such a deep thinker. Like, you know, every
you're taking the time to just ruminate.
I'm just thinking so deep, man. Like, every person that so many people say that to me. Every girl I'm dating is always like, what are you thinking about? I'm like, it doesn't matter. But I'm just so deep. I'm such a deep thinker. Like, you know, my mind is just.
Do you have a process for gathering those ideas off the back of it, in terms of not losing those thoughts and ideas that are coming up during this kind of deep process?
I keep notes on my phone, on my iPad. I use Good Notes 2.0, which is a fantastic app, and I just have a planning notepad, and I just
is that like almost like a second brain kind of idea?
Yeah, well, I have Notion as well. Notion is the second brain, so I kind of like, my process around that is to put everything into my iPad. I write it out on my iPad most mornings. I highlight all the key things, and then I put them on my Notion. So that's kind of my
you
platform.
Filter through it to get that, because I think so many of us come up with these thoughts and ideas.
Yeah.
And often we don't give ourselves the space to explore them or the opportunity to retain them and then refine them. Because, for example,
Yeah.
you've got a 2-tier process there, which I think is really important, because there's a filtering between writing in the iPad, like, I don't want to say vomiting, but like a word vomit, like just brainstorm.
Yeah.
Bang, bang, bang. And
Yeah.
then, right, what do I need to do to get this into a stage where it can go in Notion and be something that's either actionable or something that sits in the background for the future? Because many of us don't give ourselves the time to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just systemizing your thoughts into plans and then into actions. So like writing causes thinking. So don't think, just put the pen on the thing and just write. Today is Wednesday, and whatever, you will dump everything onto a page. Go back and read it over, highlight the things, what you need to do, what's to make it into a priority list, and then put that onto Notion. And on my Notion, I have like a board. My board is like long-term goals, this month, this week, today, future tasks, completed, and I have a daily routine thing then, so I can cross-check that I'm on the line with my routine, and that's kind of my Notion.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the way, like, when you're mapping out in front of us on the desk, you're able to be like, this is the column, this. Yeah. And you're like, because you look at it every day. Whereas I think, and that's a really common theme within many of the really successful people I've had on the podcast. They're able to articulate what their process is for doing these things. Yeah. And so many people don't slow down in this day and age to do that. Yeah. And the temptation, as you've said, is to just be a busy fool and run from thing to thing, get distracted by the next shiny object. I was joking earlier about distraction from TikTok, porn, vaping, all these cheap things.
Cheap dopamine.
Yeah, exactly. But you taking the time to be like, pause and like have this systemized approach. Many of the people that choose to listen to a podcast like this one would tremendously benefit from having a process like that. Yeah. This is from deep thought, man. This is from deep thought. Like, you know, I've had a fucking probably have loads of trauma in my brain that allows me to like just deep think. So I think that if I can use that, you know, productively, then to you know digest thoughts on a deeper level, I can systemize, you know, an approach then into that. So I'm in my own head all the time. Mostly it's good, sometimes it's bad, but using it productively to kind of like progress is the main thing. On the days it's bad, do you have a process for making it healthier? I try. So when it's bad, I know it's bad because I'll make a list, and I'll make another one from Ty Lopez. And what I'll do is I will write out sleep, training, fitness, nutrition, water intake, stress levels, and I will make a score out of 10 on all of them. And then I will find the average. And if I'll say, okay, my average is 4 out of 10. Okay, then of course I'll be like, accountability then is the main thing. I'll say, I am feeling like shit because I ate McDonald's over the weekend. My sleep was shit for 2 nights. I didn't meditate or take any mindfulness in a week. I only trained twice this week. I didn't walk 10k steps every day last week. And of course I'm going to feel like shit. You know, so if I'll just consciously fix that over the next 7 days, and then I'll feel great again. You know, so I have like accountability and again a process to fix it, and then I'm fully fine. Yeah. I see people who are tired all the time, and I'm saying, you eat Domino's pizza twice a week, and I just saw you drink a liter of Coke. Of course you're going to be tired. Like if I drink a liter of Coke, I'm going to be tired because I'm not hydrated. My body's not functioning. Of course you're tired. So like people don't have that self-awareness and accountability. Yeah, one of the biggest contributions that Andrew Shuberman has made is that the mind often follows the body. Yeah. So you were naming things there that all relate to, or mostly relate to the body. Yeah. And guess what? Your mind follows off the back of that. So I didn't go my walk. I feel a bit sluggish. I don't feel as fluid on this on this work block that I'm doing. Yeah. Am I well hydrated? Guess what? Yeah. I'm not as cognizant. I'm not as sharp. Yeah. Like there's so many things that it delves back to, and people rail against this sometimes, and they're like, "Oh no, I'm just having a bad day," and you're like, "There's probably a reason for it." Yeah. Like there will undeniably be something that happened previously that has led to this, and like the habits that we have now are probably where you and I are going to end up in 6 months, end up in 12 months time, and the conversations I get to have with somebody like you in December 2023 will help shape what I'm thinking about, what I'm doing, how I'm feeling, how motivated I am for starting 2024. Yeah. And that's a great thing. Like I'm doing the work now because in 2024 I want to be undeniable.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
So
really healthy.
you're always at a fork in the road. It's like you just have to decide which way you're going. You know?
Yeah. One of the forks in the road that you had was moving to Marbella.
Yeah.
Where was the business at this stage, and what led to that?
I think I was just doing so. When I first started my business, like my first goal was 2K a month to replace my salary. So I achieved that. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to go big and I'm going to aim for 10K a month. And my goal was 10K a month and to move into this apartment back home called the Elysian. So the Elysian is like the tallest building in Ireland. It's like, it stands out like a sore thumb back home. It looks like a New York building in the middle of Ireland, right? So I was like, okay, someday I'm going to live in there. And that was my goal for so long. So eventually, about another 8 months after my first client, I hit 10K a month, and I moved into that exact apartment. So I was like, okay, this is a problem because I now need new goals. It's like I achieved all my goals. I didn't know what to do next. So I was kind of like looking for a thing. So I redone my goals. And I looked at I just put the sun. I just put a picture of the sun on a vision board, and I was looking at that. And then someone said, do you want to come to Madrid? So I ended up going to Madrid. Then we ended up in Marbella. But before I moved there, I probably was just under 20 grand a month. Probably had 2 people. I think 1 full-time, 1 part-time person on the team. And we were probably just under 20 grand a month. So I moved there. And eventually I was like, yeah, this is home for me.
What did Marbella enable you to do that you weren't able to do at home?
Think bigger. Connect with the success. So I was able to see, like, you know, as I said, in Ireland, I didn't see I didn't see a Ferrari. I didn't see a supercar until I was like 19 or 18 or 19. I didn't see a real Rolex until I was 21. So I didn't even see or feel or understand how, like,
trademarks of wealth.
Yeah, I didn't even. So it's hard to believe in yourself. It's hard to take the big action when you don't fully believe. So when I came to Marbella, I saw all the people. I was just meeting random people in the gym. They're like, yeah, I make 100 grand a month from property, or I'm a crypto millionaire, or they are doing all these different things. So they would have the lifestyle and the success that I really desired. So I was able to, I suppose, grasp that and then take bigger action and work harder because I could see and feel and taste. And I was like, okay, I can get this. And then I would push myself towards that.
It's funny you mentioned the importance of Marbella for you, because I was aware of you through Darren, but when I interviewed Marcus the other day, he was talking about an event he attended in Marbella and how it opened up his mind to the possibilities of internet money and what you guys could earn if you got things right. Yeah. And it almost smashed some of his limiting beliefs. And if you look at what he's gone on to do, that must feel really cool to have been acquainted with people at different points in their journey. Yeah.
So shout out to Marcus. Marcus is like a brother to me, but Marcus was like, he was staying on my couch in Marbella 4 years ago. Now he's driving around in a Rolls Royce in Dubai. So it's amazing, like being able to, I suppose, like the same way that, you know, we're able to do that. People, it's like a never ending cycle. Like, for example, like we said, Rob Lipsett kind of like was that for me. He done that to me. He showed it was possible, and he was able to say, like, he was able to show, you know, you can build a lifestyle, you can build an exciting business from hard work and progression, leveraging the internet. So yeah, it's a super important thing, and I really love the way that I can, you know, be able to help anyone.
Be that support for somebody. Such a common phrase in the podcast that I use, and one of my favorite quotes, and one of the things that I write quite often in my journal is that a rising tide raises all ships.
Yeah, love that.
And if somebody's on their way up, let's try and bring people with you. Now, don't get me wrong, you left friends and people behind because they weren't willing to come on the journey and the trajectory with you. They might have held you where you are, they might have anchored you. Yeah. But you were like, I'm on my way up. And if guys want to come on that journey with you, the more the merrier. There's not a scarcity mindset about getting to the top. No. And again, we're mentioning Darren a lot, but I know you guys are from a very similar part of Ireland. Him and I share tips about studios to use when you're in different cities and countries. And you'd be like, oh, but you both have a podcast. Like, do you not, like, are you taking listening hours away from each other? I'm like, I'm not in competition. Like, look what he's done in the last year on YouTube. Like, I'm so pleased for him. I've not quite cracked YouTube at all. Yeah. But I'm buzzing to see him doing it. Yeah. And for his 100th episode, I introduced him to Joe Delaney, who had been on my show. And Joe was like somebody that we both looked up to so much in those early days. But it was no skin off my nose to get him to do Darren's show. Like it was a good thing. In the same way, Marcus could work in a very similar field because he would have been at that point maybe SMMA.
Yeah.
And might he take clients from you if you're helping him?
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Like there's enough bread for us all to eat.
Yeah. Anyone who thinks like that is short termed anyway. Like you can't like some people, like there's a story of like two people set out to succeed. One person succeeds by becoming the best version of themselves. They read, they study, they work out late hours, early mornings for years to make it happen. The other person tries to succeed by putting all their efforts into tear down everyone else. Who's going to win in the long term? Like the person who's going above and beyond, because this person is so busy trying to tear others down that they're not really building themselves. So eventually that's all short lived, and you're going to push on from that. You know, anyone who ever reached out to me, I give them. I never hold back on anything, because that's a lesson from Bob Proctor. Abundance, like competition is. Yes, friendly competition is good, but actual competing to say there's only a finite amount of resources is a lack or limiting belief. So there's no competing. It's competition is for lack. So
I love the lessons that you bring to the fore from all the books you've read, and I would love your teachers from home to watch this back and be like, Adam never engaged in my class in any shape or form, but now he's recalling concepts.
A lot of them, that has happened. A lot of them have cross paths or mutual friends, or like a lot of one or two have said those exact words. Yeah, to be like, Jesus, I was wrong about him.
But it was just finding the right sources and the right things to speak to you.
Yeah. In that regard, just finding an avenue.
One of the things you have spoken about, but we haven't gone deep on yet, is vision boards.
Yeah,
you drew the sun on one before you moved to Marbella. Yeah. Where did that concept come from?
Sorry, my phone's ringing. So that has come from Bob Proctor. So in order to get, like, without going too deep on, like, you know, attraction or whatever, like, in order to start moving towards what you want to achieve, you have to have that feeling. And the best way to have the feeling is by putting yourself mentally into that space, and that's exercising your imagination. So your imagination is like a bicep of your mind. You have to work it, and if you never ever work your imagination, it's not going to be there. It's not going to be a strong muscle. So for me, throughout the day, whenever your awareness comes to your goal, you should be able to, within a flick, get there, be there. You're there. In the spirit, in the imaginary world, like, you're actually there. It's just not physical. So a vision board is a huge way to get there. A vision board is a huge way to feel it and put yourself in there, and actually, like, you know, you can actually be there. Like, you can actually be there in its future, and then you will start moving towards that, and that will start coming to you as well, and that's how you close the gap. And to be honest, 80% of everything I've ever put in a vision board has come to life.
What's left on there that you're really striving towards?
Couple of big things, couple of big ones, like, you know, big things. You know, I've had to put a couple of cars on there, but to be honest, I'm not really interested in cars. So yeah, a couple of bits on that I have not come to fruition yet. But Ty Lopez always says, whenever you set a goal, add 2 to 10 years on top of that for it to become a reality, because that's an average how long it will take. If you set a goal for 2024, and if it doesn't happen in 2024, it will happen in the next 2 to 10 years. So you make sure your goal is big, and make sure you're given that time frame for it to become.
And you've got your process with your Notion, checking in on your daily habits that you're working towards it as well.
Yeah.
There's a chap online, I've had him on the show, and Darren's interviewed him as well, Ross Harkness. He talks about self-mastery, and one of the things he talked about was conscious alignment.
Okay.
And it's checking in on yourself that each of these things that you're striving towards. So on your vision board, you could have these high-falutin goals.
Yeah.
But if your daily processes don't in some way move you towards them, then you're kind of kidding yourself on. Yeah. And I think there's probably people with vision boards out there who have maybe stumbled across the concept or talk a big game about a goal they've got. Yeah. That if you looked at their habits, or you did like a helicopter view, to use a wanky corporate term, like looked from above.
Yeah.
You'd be like, you're not doing any of these things that like, they're going to move you in the right direction. So if I said I want to have one of the top podcasts in the UK, I should probably be releasing 2 to 3 high quality podcasts every single week.
Yeah.
I should be researching the guests really well. I should be reaching out to people like you, getting into your network and understanding who else might be good for the show. If I'm not doing that, then I'm kind of just saying I want to have a talk podcast.
Yeah.
It's just all words. There's no oomph or action behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. And some people get a semi-dopamine hit just from saying it. And that's a problem, because some people will just go to bed and sleep at nighttime to say, I understand the skeleton of a plan. But that's not even 1%. Like, that's not even, yes, planning is important, but without doing anything, you know, it's never not.
It's intellectual masturbation.
Yeah, it is. And some people just feel. Some people want to have, you know, they want to go for a coffee. They want to have a meeting about a meeting, and they just want to talk about something that they want to happen in the future. That's not really gonna. That, you know.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have time for that.
Within your group now, you've got the investing and buying of brands.
Yeah.
What led you to get involved in that space?
I've always wanted a brand. It's been my goal for years. Like, always been my goal. And I suppose, you know, I've always lived below my means. So I've been saving for a long time over the years. And I suppose when an opportunity came to acquire a brand, I was kind of prepared and ready. So I was like, let's give it a try. And I did. And I just opened up that. It was like a natural progression.
What's the criteria you look for when you're going to
acquire a brand?
Yeah.
So it's very different now. Back then, I was acquiring brands through COVID. So, like, you know, people were, the sales were all like, you know, just bananas back then. But I suppose I kind of have a sixth sense in regards to, from working with so many e-commerce brands over the years, you kind of just have a sixth sense of, like, it's orchestration. It's orchestration, because some people have an amazing product, some people have an amazing creative team, they have a brilliant website, but it's not orchestrated, all aligned. And that's a big problem. If people can orchestrate things, and some people sit there pulling their hair out being like, why is this not working? I have a great product, I have a great website, I have a great social media presence. It's because it's not orchestrated correctly. It's not fully aligned as a whole. Like, there's all inconsistencies across the entire business. And that's why people lack skill. So if I can see some form of orchestration, then it'll be like, I'm like, yeah, that's a cool brand. Or if I can see something that has everything that's not orchestrated, and then me and my team can come in and orchestrate it, then it can work. But
it'd be like second nature to you walking in and being like, you guys aren't doing this and this.
Yeah.
Why not? Or you're doing this, but you're doing it in a way that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Or it isn't aligned. And I've seen you say before, like, you've looked at a company and they're maybe got different strategies for TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook,
and that's
Google.
none of that's orchestrated.
Exactly, which is a great term. They need to be singing from the same hymn sheet, to use a phrase.
Yeah.
And it's funny how somebody with a level of expertise, a throwaway comment you might make just from a really quick glance at something, would blow the mind of the creator, the owner of that business, because they're like, oh, this is a problem that I just couldn't see. Like, they couldn't see the wood for the trees. Whereas you're like, oh, why are you not doing that?
Yeah.
And straight away they're like, I get it now. And that's where I guess your value as an investor, or like, I've heard you joke before, it's almost like private equity, you're giving them backing.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And that's what kind of naturally evolved for me. But my goal, I suppose, with that was to, like, number one, a big mistake I made was, during COVID it was, but after, when that died down, you can't be an angel investor in brands because there's so much different things to spin, right? It was not happening at all. So I had to pull out one or two projects. But my goal with that as a whole is to find one winner. Okay, and now I have, like, my passion project, which is my clothing brand called Toig, Top of Your Game. And that's a brand that I love. So I found that winner. I still own one or two other brands, but that's my passion.
You're backing project. That horse, like the one thing, Gary Keller.
Yeah, the one thing. So again, I was stretched a lot with that, and then, you know, if a staff member went on holidays, it was like, whoa, like, we're really not prepared for all of this, because I was trying to go from like 1 million to 10 million, but, you know, I went way too quick. During COVID, everything was great, all the finances were perfect, but then when that died down, it was a little bit slower. So ad costs went up, fulfillment went way up, cost of product went way up. So kind of like, it kind of balanced out a little bit for the brand. So yeah, but look, it's all a lesson. It's all.
With this clothing brand, what lessons are you bringing forward from the two that previously didn't go well. I know you had Script and Elysium.
Yeah, so you've done your research, man. It's scripted. So I tried to start the brand Script in 2019. I was going to launch a clothing brand. I got inspiration from a couple of brands. There's a brand called Blakely, massive UK brand. I love their stuff. Got inspiration from a couple of brands. So I was going to just start doing a brand like that, t-shirts. I was getting samples from China, and I just couldn't get momentum with it, man. I couldn't get the products right. I couldn't orchestrate it. I couldn't orchestrate everything together because, again, I was still running my agency, probably doing 12 to 15 grand a month maybe. Still trying to build that. So eventually that just fizzled out after a good couple of months. And I've tried to build this, but it always came back to my agency then as well. So like, that's another. Then the second brand, was Elysium. That was being started with my friend in the UK who owns a creative agency. We were starting that. We built out all the concepts. We were in the middle of the process, the sample processing, the website build. We actually had the website build. Everything was going really well, and then it can just fizzle out so quickly. Couldn't orchestrate it again. So it didn't
all join up in the way you wanted it to.
Yeah. So, and again, without being able to commit fully to it, it was never gonna take off. But the other thing is, something that serves me really well is that I put like my passion and vision above financing. So there's also been opportunities that I could have progressed financially a lot more.
Drop shipping, you said.
Like drop shipping, like, education, like consulting, like other brands, like endless amounts of things, right? But crypto as well. I never bought $1 of crypto. Never bought a penny, never spent a penny on crypto. Probably wrong, because some of my friends literally sat me down and was like, you have all the money in the bank right now, put it in here and it's going to triple. And they were right, it did. But I just never did it, right? So I could be the fool there, I don't know. But I've always just put my passion and long-term vision ahead of anything else. So for example, we're starting this clothing brand. We're after scaling endless amounts of clothing brands ourselves to $1 million plus. I can do that for myself, big margins, all the success there. But I've also cancelled meetings with suppliers and partners, everything, to attend to clients for the agency. So yeah, my mind subconsciously doesn't allow me to go down other projects too much, because I'm so emotionally connected with this one, and that makes me it's probably a good and bad thing, but yeah, I'm so emotionally involved here with this because, again, I started from scratch. It was make or break for my life with this agency company.
Put you here. Look where you are right now. Like
exactly.
if you told 20-year-old Adam you'd be sat out in Dubai having a chat about your success,
he would be like, mate,
he'd be buzzing.
He wouldn't believe it. He wouldn't even think wouldn't think it's possible at all.
One of the last things I'm interested in, what do you think 30-year-old Adam would look back on and not believe is possible that you're hoping to achieve?
Fuck, man, good question. 30-year-old me. What
have you got, 4 or 5 years?
I just turned 27.
27, 3 years.
So yeah. So there is one thing that pops to mind. It's a video of this. Like, this video always gets me. It's like a video of a very, very old man. He must be in his 80s, late 80s, early 90s. And he goes to like a cinema with his wife on like, let's say his 90th birthday or whatever. And he's a super old guy. And they're watching a movie. And the movie is of the concentration camps during the World War II during the World War II period. And what he doesn't realize is that he's in the movie. Everyone in the movie is in the concentration camps. So what he done during the war is he took people out. He saved people from there. And then they all started families and they all moved out. And then at the end of the thing, at the end of the movie, which is a documentary, the lights come on, everybody stands up and starts clapping. And what he realizes is that everybody who's in the movie theater at the time is the people he saved from the concentration camp, and they all have beautiful families, they all have lives, they all have partners and everything. So he saved them from the thing, and he gave them a life. So that's something that really resonated with me. And if I can find, you know, say 50 people who were like me when I was 20 in the warehouse, and I can give them a roadmap and guidance, and they can be in Dubai and they can do all these things. And someday when I'm 30 and we can have some form of meeting where they all have happiness in their life from direction and career growth because of what I've built, and then that's something that brings my life purpose then. You know,
that's beautiful, mate.
So that's something that comes to mind when I think of that. And that's kind of my goal with that's what I want to bring to life in the coming years.
Yeah, you've catered for a lot of your own needs at this point, and that's only going to go in one direction because of the compounding effect of what you've built already.
Yeah.
You've obviously got the passion project of the clothing brand.
Yeah.
But having this kind of overarching goal in the background as well of I mentioned the rising tide phrase. I really think it links nicely with what you've just said there.
Yeah.
If you can bring these directionless young guys with you through your education, give them something that they couldn't believe at 20 years old. When they're 26, they might be out in Dubai, Marbella, wherever they are, living a life that they've always dreamed of. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, man, that's it. And it's like basically flipping life on its head. It's like, you know, when I was back then, I was like, I could never find happiness. Right? I don't think happiness was even possible for me, because I had unfulfilled potential. I wanted to achieve something. I wanted to put I don't think I would ever found fulfillment in life if I didn't find Ty Lopez. You know, I would have never found happiness. And think about that. Think about when you're 20 years of age and you have no pathway to happiness, and then you find one person and he teaches you everything, and then you become the most happy. You jump out of bed at 6 a.m. every morning. You love life, and you know you have all your dreams, and you're able to. Your friends are all your. It's such a different existence. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for me to become Ty Lopez for a network of younger,
and probably even more relatable for the young Irish guys as well.
Yeah, and that's my goal.
They can join the dots much quicker.
Yeah. So that's my goal with the Powered Institute that we have. To build that network and build that for people, you know.
Yeah, let's do it, Adam. I've loved this conversation, and I'm sure the listeners have as well. If they want to continue the conversation with you, where should they head towards?
So yeah, probably most active on Instagram, AdamPower96, and AdamPower21 is on Twitter. So either one of the
both will be linked in the show notes. Thank you, Adam, and thank you to you, the listener. I'll be back to speak to you all again very, very soon.
Pleasure, mate.
There we go, man. Enjoyed that.
Thank you, bro.